Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to start a new worm bin. So for the first time, I'm going to move some of my European Nightcrawlers into a tote. I've only had them going in my urban worm bag. They've started doing incredibly well to the point that they're taking a massive amount of food, once a month to like every 21 days, and they're able to churn through that food. And I want to take out some of those worms since there's so many and start another container to see if I can grow that population even more. And also as a safeguard in case something should happen to that system. I did at one point drop like vinegar in it, and I was really worried I might have killed the worms. Wasn't a lot, but you never know, it could really harm them. So what we're going to do is I've got one of these busboy totes in front, and you can find links down below if you were looking to purchase these from Amazon. And I'm going to take one of these and make a new bin with those European Nightcrawlers. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. In my urban worm bag, I have all shredded cardboard. That's the only thing I've really used in there with food. And here, we're going to do a mixture of things. We're going to have some shredded cardboard, we're going to have some Coco Coir, and then we're going to, of course, have some castings from the system to kind of get everything working. I'm not going to add worms yet, though. I kind of want to give it time to really sit and kind of develop that bacterial bloom that you need, that they eat. And that's what I really want to do, is give it time to kind of settle and get those microbes going in there, so that way when I put the worms in, they can immediately start spreading out and eating throughout the system. So with that, let's go take a look at this bin, how it looks right now, what we're going to add to it, the moisture we're going to need to add to it, because we're going to need a lot of moisture, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to add dry ingredients, but we're going to let it sit. So everything's going to be nice and wet. We're going to have to churn it quite a bit and kind of get this ready to go. So with that, let's take a look at the bin. Alright, so here's our bin. First thing first, I did write the date on it. I'm going to write it at the bottom on this one, and then I think at the top we'll do our markings as far as where the feedings were. So no feedings this time, obviously. This is just going to be the start to the system. And the first thing we're going to need to add is, as I grab my glove here, is we're going to need to add some Coco Coir. Now this was a brick that is expanded. Hold on just a second here. It's expanded, and we're gonna add a whole bunch of this in here. Very dry material. I've let it dry out in my basement as I was adding it to other systems, but I'm trying to finish this off so that way I can kind of clear out this tub that I've got it in and use it for other things. So right now we're just gonna dump a whole bunch of this in there. So, and this is very dry. There's gonna need a lot of water to get re-moisture, but that's okay. There's a little bit of dust going into the air, but not too much right now, by the way. For those of you that are looking to do this at home, this is very dry, as you can see. I haven't added any water to this. This is sort of an extra thing to kind of dry out bins. I found that Coco Coir is pretty good at doing that. Do not make a huge mess. All right. So this is the first base layer of our system. Now, as you add water to this, Coco Coir tends to expand. And we need water in here to really get these microbes going. So right now what we're going to do is I'm just trying to break apart all these clumps. And I'm going to take, I actually have a big bucket right here that has some water in it. And this is the water that has the BTI mix in there, but we're just going to pour a whole bunch of this in there. And it's okay if we pour too much because it's going to get absorbed. This is, and we're going to let this sit and really for a while. I mean, I'm not going to add any worms to it yet. We just want to get all this stuff wet. So as you can see, it absorbs quite a bit, and it changes color when it does to this nice dark brown. Now look at that, we're going to need more water than that. I thought that might be enough, but shows how dry this stuff was. We're going to probably have to just add the rest of this bucket in here. There we go. I think that's the last of the bucket. Hopefully that's enough to at least get this kind of soupy. As you can see, this stuff just holds a lot of water, and it's well known that it does. It's a great additive to bins if they're a little bit muddy. You can add this in there to dry them out. As you can see, quickly clumps together and dries all this out. Now, the idea behind this is that we really want to make this a good environment for all these microbes before we move these European Nightcrawlers in there. And if you're getting a new bin at home, you want to do the same thing. You want to do this a couple weeks beforehand, where you kind of mix all this up, you get all this ready to go, and that way you have everything there. Now, I'm not going to add any food this time, as I said, but we are going to add a piece of, no, that's just paper that was left in there. It looked like a piece of plastic there for a minute. So As you can see, it's looking a little bit better. It's kind of moving around some of that moisture. Probably could use a little bit more, but right now we're just going to let this, I'm going to add more a little bit later. I like to kind of let it go. I've actually added too much water at times where it's really, really, really bad and there's puddles in the bottom. So we're going to let this sit. It looks like it's slowly moving the moisture around within this, all this material. And it's equalizing. Okay. The next part we're going to add though to this is something that worms need, and that is a grit. And for this, I have this in this container right here. This is crushed crab and eggshell. I think it's primarily egg at this point. I think I've used up all the crab that I had, but it's shell. And what this does is this allows, by the way, this is, you can see the little bit of powder coming off there. This is, you don't want to breathe this in. So it's staying low in the system. But this allows them to have a grit. And the reason why you need a grit for worms is because they eat with a gizzard, sort of like birds do, or I guess owls. They have a gizzard. So they need this as something to grind up the food that they're taking in when they take in chunks. So you can see these white specks all through here. This also acts as a balancer for the bin as far as pH, because you know it's gonna neutralize some things. It's not gonna, sort of like adding lime or something like that. It's not gonna change it's not gonna make it a bad pH. It's gonna help neutralize whatever is happening in the bin, so that way you don't have too many issues. I'm gonna add just a little bit more than that, I think. You can see this white, there's some white specks hopefully on the camera, but I'm gonna add just a little bit more and mix this in again. Just to make sure that there is enough in here. And when you're using this stuff, you really should be wearing a mask. I'm being very, very careful here. I'm being very slow and deliberate so I don't get a lot of dust up into the air from it, because that stuff is bad for your lungs. So this bin is almost ready now, but there is something that's missing from it, and that is something to activate all the microbes in here and get them going. So we have the moisture, we have some grit for the worms, and now we need something that's going to really get this going. Now, you can add food and food's going to get microbes. What I have here are castings from my urban worm bag that has the European Nightcrawlers in it. Now, I did a check in here. There are no worms in here, or there should not be. I did a check a few times. So, as you can see in here, it's not much material. It's just enough to kind of get it going. So what we're going to do is we're going to dump this in. There actually, oh, there's a worm right there. Found one. Okay, we'll put him back in the other system. I don't really want him in here yet. Let's just do one more cursory checkup. There's another one. See, look at that. They clean this stuff and they can be lost. All right, so I think that's good. But now what we're going to do is we're going to mix this into this soil. And that's going to get that microbial population going. It's going to give them something to cling on to, and that also gives them something else to sort of go with. Now, the last thing we're going to do here, although this looks pretty good, is we need to also have a cover on it. So this bin does not come with a cover, as this busboy tray. And what I have here is this bubble wrap. And I'm going to put this over the top loosely. It kind of curls up on the side. I can always cut it to fit perfectly later if I really want to. But there's air gaps on this side right here and on that lower side. You see that there's an air gap over here and there's an air gap on the top. You need those air gaps so that way air can kind of still flow in and out of the system, but at the same time, you know, it's not letting too much of the moisture out. It's going to hit this and kind of fall back in and rain back down into the system to keep that moisture in. You can always open up a side if you need to let some air in, or moisture out. But for right now, I don't think we need that. In fact, I'm going to probably have to add moisture here before I even really put this on the shelf. I have a spray container that I can add some moisture with, or I'll have to refill my bucket upstairs. But this is ready to go. It's ready to sit on the side, and we are ready for the worms probably in a week or two. This is going to get those microbes going. This is going to get this bin fully settled and ready to go. So when we add these European Nightcrawlers in, we can add some food in, and then they can, you know, we'll probably give them a week before we add food, but we'll probably put them in here, let them settle for a week. There's going to be some food here for them to eat, and then we'll add some food to one of the sides and start them going through the process of actually migrating from side to side with food. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, this is just the initial setup for this new European Nightcrawler system. I don't have any of them in a bin like this. I've got Africans and I've got Reds, but this will be my prevention in case there's something that goes wrong with my urban worm bag. I still have a system left over with them going. So thank you for watching. And again, if you have comments, please leave them down below.